One Punch Man. Quite the interesting show. I have to say, at first, when I began watching One Punch Man, I was a little skeptical, and slowly as I went through, I began to enjoy it more and more. And I would have to say, without a doubt, that as of right now, I definitely love One Punch Man. Very, very solid. So I wanted to do a bunch of like research and look into the backstory of this. So I guess One Punch Man started out as like a series of web comics, like just one-offs that was created by this guy who was going by a pseudonym of One. And I believe it was kind of like, it wasn't exactly elaborate art or anything. It was used with some basic level like drawing program, and eventually it gained a cult following until an actual I believe it's a pretty big time worker in the manga industry kind of found out about this, and they teamed up, and then it became like an actual manga series in Young Jump, or one of those different sort of manga, I think the manga series, they're always like a weekly book that comes out and it's got different chapters of different stuff. But as in such, it's grown in popularity quite a bit. And now today, obviously, with the first season of One Punch Man having been completed for a little while now, and the popularity is still growing, I think it is definitely safe to say also that there will be a season 2 probably pretty soon, considering One Punch Man was just actually dubbed and it's now being shown on Toonami, actually. Now, basically, the premise that One Punch Man has is basically it's almost like a Goku or a Superman, some sort of like omnipotent, powerful character like that. It's basically just following, this character Saitama, who is invincible on the level of Superman, or I guess I would probably even say like beyond that, to the point where he defeats like every single opponent he fights with one punch, thus the name One Punch Man. And it does seem as though the show is going more for comedy, at least at first. Well, I'll get into that in a little bit. Now, as far as main characters in the show goes, more or less, the show is basically just following two characters as they sort of, go about their daily lives. It follows Saitama, of course, and then Genos, who is sort of a cyborg. I guess cyborg is, I was going to say cyborg human hybrid, but really I think cyborg, the correct like terminology, is basically cyborg. Like, it's like in Dragon Ball Z, in the English dub, they're called androids, even though that's technically incorrect. What they really are, essentially, is actually cyborgs. And whereas Saitama is sort of an invincible, god, it seems to me that Genos is almost, the insert for the viewer. Like, the viewer is basically watching Saitama's accomplishments and stuff from pretty much the same position that Genos is. And Genos, very early on, becomes Saitama's student. So it leads to a very comical, sensei and student kind of relationship that I do enjoy quite a bit. I think Genos is definitely the heart of the show, even though I feel like a lot of people probably don't even realize that. Now, before diving into some more in-depth talk about a lot of the episodes and characters, this of course is a 12 episode anime series, so it's relatively short, but there's no filler and it's very fast paced. And really, outside of the first episode, I would say they're all quite good. And after finishing up, the whole season, going back and watching the first episode, I also do appreciate that a little more, definitely. Now, I do want to mention the opening and closing credits, I guess, before going into it. And the opening is pretty cool. It's interesting, showing like a bunch of different monsters and, hinting at Saitama's true ability. Now, the song, I believe the song, is it literally called One Punch Man? It might be has, begun to become very famous and very synonymous, obviously, with One Punch Man. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but it's okay. It's whatever. It's more for other people than for me. Not my type of thing. But the ending, I fuck with that ending song hard. I don't know why, but I really, really, really like the end credits, the closing credits, and that little song, that catchy little song. Definitely like it. Not a ton of detail in the ending animation, as there's no characters shown at all besides just a damn cat. But I do really like that song. I've even got that song on my phone. That is fucking good shit. I don't care what anyone says. That shit is good. Now I'm just gonna breeze through some of these episodes here. Now the first episode begins, and it's mainly just an episode kind of introducing Saitama, delving a little bit into his power and the problem that Saitama faces, which is that he has become so powerful, so immensely untouchable, that he's, sort of grown bored with life and a lot of the normal human emotions that other people might have, such as, fear, anger, such and such. Saitama is, drifting away from that, and he's kind of very lost. And, you do see a couple of monsters. I do like the way the episode begins, where a monster is introduced called Vaccine Man, and he's, going on and on about how, humans are bacteria polluting the planet and stuff, blah, 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 blah. And I could just think about how, like, in other animes and stuff, this sort of plot line is something that comes, like, way, way towards the end, where, like, one of the final villains has decided, humans are no good, gotta take them out. And literally, in minute 1, the first, like, enemy shows up is saying that, and Saitama just obliterates him with a single punch, is a good way to set the baseline of just how untouchable Saitama is. Now, when it sort of talks about his backstory and shows like how he, first got the idea to be a hero, and it's this really weird long scene with a man who gained crab-like features after he ate too much crab. And it's just very strange, he's like a man crab, and he's wearing tighty whities, just very, very odd. And you do sort of see how Saitama, back then, he has hair, he's a normal guy, and, throughout this encounter with this crab man, he, I don't know, I guess discovers the fire to become a hero. And you kind of hear about how he says he trained every day for 3 years straight, and then boom, he just has this invincible power. Now, I've seen a lot of talk, a lot of discussion that there probably is some hidden way that Saitama got his, godly One Punch Man powers that hasn't been revealed yet. And I do think that is possible, although I will definitely say that when the show was created, obviously the creator won. He was not thinking of any crazy thing where Saitama has powers or anything. It's obviously like in Dragon Ball Z, as the series went on, Akira Toriyama kind of, probably discovered, oh, Saiyan, that's a cool idea. And Goku, is from space and blah, 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 blah. Whereas when Dragon Ball first started out, obviously those were not Akira Toriyama's intentions. But as the story progressed and he got new ideas, that's what he made Goku's backstory. I am assuming that it's going to be something very similar with Saitama. The rest of the episode just sort of has, Saitama beating more monsters. That's like kind of a thing in this world that was created for One Punch Man, is that it does seem to be as though like all of the continents of the world are combined into one like mega continent, and then there's cities, each called, with a letter. So there's like city A, city B, C city, D city, like that, all the way down to Z. And that's sort of the setting for One Punch Man. And there is constantly attacks by monsters, like all the time. Thus the reason for Saitama. And as it's, slowly revealed, there's an organization in this world called the Hero Association, which once the show gets into that, that's when I think it really, really picks up, because it's almost as though the show begins as kind of like satire on, I would almost probably have to say almost like the Marvel Comics, DC Comics type of mold. And I think that once it goes from being like satire to almost becomes the material that it's, essentially making fun of, that's when I do think it becomes a lot more enjoyable. Now, the second episode is basically where the story begins. This is where Genos is introduced, the cyborg, who, it's revealed that he has like a dark past. His family was killed. The city he was living in was killed by some sort of, what does he say? Does he say a cyborg? Yeah, I believe he says it's destroyed by a cyborg or some metal monster or something like that. And, Genos is sort of taking down monsters, trying to gain power, and also look for his family's killer. And he does find himself really in trouble fighting a monster called Mosquito Girl. Very sexy monster design, I must say, considering it's a goddamn mosquito. But Saitama actually saves Genos, because Genos is about to be killed by Mosquito Girl. And this is where their relationship begins. That of, Genos wanting Saitama to be his master, his teacher, or, sensei, as he calls him throughout the show. Which, I don't know what it is about the word sensei, but I love it that throughout all this time, like, whenever Genos is referring to Saitama, it's always, sensei. And something about that is just, like, so good. Like, the chips are down, a bunch of heroes are getting knocked out, Genos is down, about to be taken down, and then Saitama shows up, and then Genos just, Sensei! Oh, Genos is my boy. I do have to say, Saitama is awesome, but Genos is easily my favorite character. I just love Genos. Now, the third episode, towards the end of the second episode, they sort of come across some monsters that are being sent out by something called the House of Evolution. I guess Mosquito Girl was a part of that and such and such. And they attack Saitama enough that Saitama decides to go towards the House of Evolution and take them down. And they end up meeting this weird doctor and all this craziness. But I do have to say, this is where the show really, really won me over. Is because before Saitama and Genos go to the House of Evolution's headquarters and take them down, Saitama, basically they get attacked by a monster, Saitama cleans it up, and then he's like, alright, well, let's go to the House of Evolution and take it down now. And Genos is kind of like, what, right now? And Saitama pulls out a flyer for like a giant mega sale at a supermarket and kind of tells Genos like, well, yeah, because we can't do it tomorrow. There's this big ass sale. So then, Saitama and Genos go to the House of Evolution, yada, yada, yada. A bunch of stuff happens. And the strongest monster that the House of Evolution has is a character named Carnage Kabuto. And, Carnage Kabuto begins attacking Genos and Saitama and, beats the shit out of Genos. But as he goes in to attack Saitama, he kind of realizes, like, there's something different about this guy. Had I just attacked, I would have been fucking murdered. And Saitama discusses what his training regimen was to get his power. There's a lot of talking with Carnage Kabuto and stuff. And after Saitama says what it was that he, got his power, which was 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, and 10 kilometers of running per day, both Genos and Carnage Kabuto get really upset because, as Genos says, that's just normal strength training, and it's not even anything at a ridiculous, insane level. Then Carnage Kabuto goes into, Carnage mode, his super powerful mode, and he begins mentioning how he'll be in this mode for a week straight until next Saturday. And after he kills Saitama, he's going to go into town and murder, all the townspeople all the way until next Saturday. And like, you see Saitama, most of the time he's kind of got like a derpy face. Obviously, that's meant to be a joke. And then when he gets super serious, he has this cool anime look about him. But as soon as Kabuto mentions, you know, traveling to the city and killing everyone, and he's not going to stop until next Saturday, you see Saitama's face, all of a sudden he's incredibly worried. And this is the exact moment the show really won me over, because Kabuto is kind of doing like Dragon Ball Z combos, like running through and just like punching them super fast and stuff. And it cuts to Saitama, and you're hearing his thoughts of, like, I've made a terrible mistake. Kabuto will be in Carnage mode for a week until next Saturday. And I'm watching it, and I'm like, holy shit, this is gonna go to that sale he was talking about. And then sure enough, it did. And Saitama loses it, kills Kabuto with one punch, and then he's on the ground, in ridiculous anime fashion, screaming at the heavens, ah! Because he missed this sale. And the evil doctor's kind of just standing there like, what the fuck is going on? And Genos walks up to him and he's like, I believe my sensei's upset about this. And he looks at the paper and it's just some damn sale. Like, that shit is fucking hilarious. And then Genos runs over and he's like, Sensei, the store closes at 10. We have 4 hours. We can make it if we hurry. And like, Saitama blows the wall off and they run towards the store. Something about that whole scene, like, really, really endeared itself to me. And I was like, okay, like, I really see what the show is going for. And Genos, kind of working as Saitama's foil, I guess you could say, really, really does help. And after this, as the episodes go on, we're introduced to a bunch of different characters. There's actually in episode 4, a character introduced called Speed of Sound Sonic. Obviously a reference to Sonic the Hedgehog. And he's a ninja, that can move at the speed of light. And there's a very comical battle that he has with Saitama, where Saitama beats him almost, just not trying, just kind of puts his hand up, and it hits Sonic right in the nuts, and Sonic declares that he's going to train so that he can get revenge on Saitama. And I guess what happens is that eventually, kind of starts up a very one-sided rivalry, as Sonic will show up from time to time trying to take down Saitama, but guess what? He's called One Punch Man for a reason, motherfucker. Now, sometime after this, this is where the Hero Association is really introduced hardcore. It's kind of explained how there's different ranks, like there's S rank heroes, A rank heroes, B rank heroes, and C rank heroes. Is there a D rank as well? There might be. But, there's heroes in each of these ranks, and the Hero Association has become this real big thing to try and protect the world from the never-ending monster attacks. And there is kind of a throwaway line of dialogue that does heavily imply that when Saitama saved a child from the crab monster in the first episode, that child's grandfather was the one who created the Hero Association after Saitama saved his grandson. So it's not, at least, in season 1, it's not explicitly stated that the Hero Association is because of Saitama, but it is pretty heavily implied. And Saitama and Genos decide to, become heroes, do the hero registration and stuff. Genos never felt the need to, but Saitama says that if Genos will take the test with him, that he'll go ahead and accept Genos as his student. And this is the thing that Genos has really been trying to get happen for, the first couple episodes. And he gladly tries to get as much advice from Saitama as well. And as the episodes go along, it's funny, as Saitama really doesn't know what to say or do to help Genos become stronger, or even what he's supposed to do as, Genos' teacher. And so he's always, like, kind of making up these half-assed type, like, things, like these little speeches. And Genos is always so enthralled by it, like, writing in a notebook, like, I understand, Sensei. Just tons of funny moments like that I just really enjoy. Eventually, as the series goes on, it sort of focuses on Saitama's rise through the rankings. That even though he is an omnipotent god, every time he sort of shows up to save something, like a giant meteor actually is coming down from the heavens and it's going to destroy the city that they're in. And a bunch of S class heroes, one who is referred to as Bang or Silver Fang, there's another S class hero called Metal Knight, and Genos, they all attack the meteor to no avail, not able to destroy it. And Saitama comes in, obliterating it. And in the public's eyes, most of the credit goes towards the S class heroes, and Saitama doesn't get that much. And this happens a few times where, some giant grave level threat will show up, and Saitama will eventually save the day, but people kind of think that he's being a cheat, or, he's not being completely honest. One of the bigger events that happens where Saitama sort of falsely doesn't get credit is it's pretty much a 2-part episode where the Deep Sea King, just, basically, I guess you could almost say like Aquaman, shows up out of the ocean and tears through a lot of the Hero Association. He takes down a few A class heroes, and he even takes out an S class hero who is hilarious. I'll talk a little bit about some of the S class heroes, but this one is called Puri Puri Prisoner, and it's sort of a gay, maximum security prisoner, and it's just hilarious watching him fight. And eventually, as a bunch of heroes get torn up, including Genos, by this Deep Sea King, finally Saitama does show up and destroys it. But as a bunch of people see Saitama destroy the monster, they begin to say like, oh, Saitama came in and obviously destroyed it with one punch. And they all say like, oh, well, if the monster was just killed that easily, then all these other heroes here were a waste. They're all losers. And, the Deep Sea King had torn through quite a few of them, and a lot of them are laying there half dead. And Saitama kind of begins putting on an act where he goes, oh boy, it's a good thing all those other heroes wore the monster down, so I was able to kill it and take the credit. And Saitama basically, hurts his own image to protect the image of the other heroes. And, there are quite a few moments like this that happen a lot, as Saitama doesn't care really, like, he doesn't seem to really care, like, what people think, in essence of, he doesn't, he's not a hero just to get people's approval. So, like, he saves the city from a meteor, and, like, even though he destroyed the meteor mostly, a couple fragments came down and seriously damaged the city, and a lot of people blame him. And Saitama says, like, that's fine, you could blame me, I don't care, I'm a hero because I want to be a hero. And, Genos, you do see it kind of from his perspective, talking about how essentially noble Saitama really is, and I do like that a lot. Now, the last 3 episodes all deal with like one single storyline, and that's that an alien comes down who has heard a prophecy that, he'll meet his match on this planet. And, throughout the universe, he's been untouchable, the strongest, to the point where he's bored, similar to Saitama. And, eventually they have like a really awesome Dragon Ball Z fight in the season finale, and it's like really cool. You see Saitama's ultimate move that he uses to defeat this enemy Boros is called Serious Punch. Like, it's so ridiculous, but he does defeat him with that. And like, this little story arc is really cool because this is where you're really introduced to all of the S-class heroes, and seeing a lot of these guys around is one of the big things for me. Like, I really, like, once all of these S-class heroes show up, I really, really like a lot of these characterizations. I find a lot of them very interesting. There's Genos, there's the number 1 rank hero was not shown. His name is Blast. Now, I'm sure they've probably shown him in the manga or the webcomic by now, but I don't know anything about that, so I'll, reserve saying anything for now. The rank 2 S class hero is known as Tatsumaki, or, that's Japanese for tornado. I think she's referred to as Tornado of Terror. And it's really cool. This is kind of like a characterization you'll see a lot in a lot of this like Japanese fiction, where she appears to be a young girl with psychic powers, like really, really powerful psychic powers. Almost think like Alexia Ashford in Resident Evil Code Veronica, where she's able to destroy shit with her mind and move everything, and she can fly. And she is an interesting character, one who's very funny, where even though she looks very young, she's not actually young. I guess she is a little older. And, so people like really talk shit to her and she gets mad and she's a hothead. And she does have a lot of like interesting, funny moments with, Genos and Saitama as a result. Rank 3 is an old martial artist, usually referred to as Bang or Silver Fang. He's a cool guy. You've seen this type of character a lot, kind of the old grizzled martial artist. He is notable in that he's one of the few people to actually know of Saitama's true power, because he was present when Saitama destroyed the meteor, and he saw other instances of just how strong Saitama is. You don't see that much of his power. He does appear to have superhuman strength and durability, but you do see him, he does eventually become like friends with Saitama and Genos. Rank 4 is a character called Atomic Samurai, and I just have to get this in there. I will always recognize this voice the second I hear it. Atomic Samurai is voiced by the same voice actor who voices Kaiba in the Yu-Gi-Oh anime, and as soon as I heard that, I'm like, there it is! Atomic Samurai, that's my boy. He's a really cool character, basically just, think Samurai Jack or, Mifune from Naruto, whatever. Any samurai you could think of. He's very quick, very cool. I like Atomic Samurai a lot. Although, because he's introduced so late, you don't really see that much of him. Rank 5 is a character called Child Emperor. This is a small child who has seems to be ridiculous like level intelligence. He's a genius, can do a lot with what's it called, like technology and stuff. Although again, you don't see very much of this character, because mainly in the last arc, only a few of the S-class heroes are actually fighting. Most of them are standing around watching, and it is Saitama who actually defeats the big, boss of the aliens, Boros. Rank 6 is a character named Metal Knight. There's not a lot known about him. It seems like he controls different sort of like robots who show up at these scenes. In the last episode, you do hear another one of the S-class heroes, who we'll get to in a second, mention to Genos that Metal Knight is his enemy. So it's very possible that Metal Knight is actually the person who destroyed Genos' village, and eventually, there might be a really good Metal Knight versus Genos fight. Rank 7 is a very powerful, strong-looking guy called King. He's got some scars on his face, and there's not a lot really shown. Not a lot shown about him. He's just a big, physical, powerful guy who hasn't, so far in the anime done really anything notable. Although I'm pretty sure that the beginning of Season 2 is going to pick up a lot with King. Now, Rank 8 is a character named Zombie Man, who is a guy who can regenerate from any type of wound. Now, it is pretty cool. There's a number of like specials. I guess they were released as sort of like like 10-minute long bonus episodes on the Blu-rays and stuff. And there is one very funny one where it seems as though Zombie Man was killed by someone. All the S-class heroes are at a resort, like a spa, which is typical in a lot of these like Japanese culture shows and stuff. And they, Child Emperor kind of leads an investigation into all the S-class heroes who might have killed Zombie Man. But because Zombie Man is, immortal, he doesn't get hurt. He eventually is, revealed to be fine. It's just a very funny story that you get to see. Rank 9 is Drive Knight. He is the, I guess another cyborg type character who told Genos that Metal Knight is Genos' enemy, and really that's all you get from Drive Knight. Rank 10 is like a really incredibly obese guy named Pig God who's always eating. You always see a character like this in a lot of animes and stuff. He's not really shown doing anything either. The rank 11 character is Super Alloy Dark Shine, although I believe in the anime he's referred to as Super Alloy Black Luster. He looks like a really big, strong bodybuilder. He's a black guy. It seems cool enough. You don't see very much of him during the alien attack, outside of the fact that, he's a big bodybuilder type guy. He doesn't really do any fighting. Now, rank 12 is another one of these comical characters. It's just a guy in what looks like a dog suit called Watchdog Man. And outside of knowing that he has a, very strong nose, there's not a lot really shown about him. Rank 13 is a hero called Flashy Flash, or I believe it might be something else that's different in the anime, or maybe it is, I don't know. But it's a guy you don't see very much of, very feminine features, but he doesn't actually really fight. The next hero is a guy that you don't see very much of. His name is Tank Top Master. You do see a couple of different characters, different heroes throughout the series who have, Tiger Tank Top, Black Hole Tank Top, and this guy's called Tank Top Master, who supposedly has superhuman strength, although you don't see him really fight. The next hero is, it looks like he's a high school, Japanese school delinquent, and his name is Metal Bat. And I see a lot of Kuwabara from Yu Yu Hakusho in this guy. That sort of attitude, the hairstyle. I get, also kind of like the Josuke from Part 4 of JoJo. I do enjoy this character, Metal Bat. Now, he actually does some fighting with Atomic Samurai, Silver Fang, and Puri Puri Prisoner, where he's fighting a monster that is actually voiced by Gaara from Naruto. And Metal Bat, he's using a metal baseball bat to fight, and I guess he must have superhuman strength. The next hero in rank S is, of course, Genos, but, whatever. We already have talked about Genos a lot. And then last is the Prisoner, who's hilarious. And anytime he does, like, a really powerful attack, he goes into, like, angel form or dark angel form or, like, an angel rush where he does, like, consecutive punches. It almost seems to be, like, a spoof on, like, the Sailor Moon type transformation because, he'll kind of basically, whereas Sailor Moon would, lose all her clothes in the transformation and then get the sailor soldier outfit, the prisoner, when he transforms, he just goes completely buck-ass naked. It's hilarious. You see him fight a lot, although he always seems to get his ass beat, which does suck. Now, another hero that does get quite a lot of screen time, although at least here in season 1 not a lot is really revealed about him, is a character, he's referred to as Handsomely Masked Sweet Mask, but he doesn't, it seems like he's never, I couldn't even remember his name. Is it Sweet Mask or whatever? But he's never really named, at least that I can remember. But he's just like a normal looking guy with blue hair. And it is sort of hinted that he might eventually become some sort of villain, because he does appear to have like a twisted sense of justice. Genos actually mentions that this guy is kind of like how he used to be. Now, Sweet Mask, he is rank number 1 for the A class, but I believe he will show up later on in some big moments. Now, overall, when you get all of this info about One Punch Man, the really cool hero association, all the different heroes they've got with different powers, all of these monsters showing up, there's a lot of loose ends that have not yet been tied up, because obviously this is going to be a long, long running manga and anime series. Who knows how long it'll go on, but there's plenty of unresolved plot lines and plenty of opportunities for the anime to continue far into the future. Overall, I'd have to say that I enjoyed the show quite a lot, and I am definitely excited for season 2. I'm not quite sure yet if I'm gonna read the manga. It's really tough. Like, should I, read the manga, which I think goes on for a little while. I believe the first season covered about half of the material of the manga as of right now. So I'm wondering, like, should I go ahead and finish up the manga, or should I just wait for the second season of the anime? I'm undecided as of now, but there still is no official word of a second season, so perhaps I will go ahead and read the manga. But definitely a great, great show. If you haven't watched it, I would say definitely check this shit out. One Punch Man is definitely very, very good. Season 2, hurry the fuck up.